Future Ken here. This episode of Command Stack was recorded on April 9th, about a week before the AMG Grand Tournament announcement and a few days before AdeptiCon announced that they're going to be moving to Milwaukee. We collectively decided that we were going to release this podcast as is, just with this disclaimer up front, again, giving an idea of when we did the recording for the episode. So with that in mind, welcome to Command Stack.
Hello and welcome back to Command Stack. I'm Ken.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
And John and Adrian are not with us tonight. John's working. Adrian is probably doing something evil and Sith-like and taking over the Empire to crush the rebellion is my guess. How are you guys doing today?
Very good. Very good. Happy to be on our comeback podcast.
This is it. We're back. Got a new season coming up, closing out this one. I'm good.
This was definitely a good conclusion. Once again, we got to do a lot of stuff at Worlds, specifically at AdeptiCon. Some of us more than others. Ryan, I'm looking at you because you got 2 full days of Armada play. And Garrett, you and I, on the other hand, were doing a lot of work moving equipment and sitting behind the cameras.
We got her done.
So, since we're all here together, what do you guys, think was the best part about Worlds and Adepticon? And I'm thinking everything from the fact that we were in the new hall in the Hyatt, that, we had a new team of judges. We had a lot of players, biggest Worlds ever. I think biggest Armada tournament ever. Ryan, you might know better than me on that one.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the biggest Armada tournament ever.
So that was pretty cool. So what do you guys think? How was your Adepticon, just in general? And are you recovering?
I guess I'll start. I'm doing good now. It was a lot. I think we filmed like almost 40 hours of footage alone during that week, plus like all the in-between stuff. But
36 hours on air with the amount of recording time.
That's an intense amount of trying to fill audio. So overall impressions, I really liked where we were at. Like the noise level and the personal level, it just felt super cozy. Is that the word I could use? It was like the Armada corner. It was really nice. It felt quiet and everybody could like focus on what was going on. We weren't in that giant hall with all the echoes.
So I didn't have to use my Excedrin once.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't take any either. That's a really good point. So I thought that was really nice. Also, like we said, biggest Worlds ever. And I got to say, the breadth of fleets was great to see. There was no oppressive onager meta. Anakin, thankfully, was removed before this World season came. And so you could really bring anything that you wanted to this Worlds and make work to an extent. Right, there's some stuff in the game that's just not competitive at a Worlds level, but I thought it was just really cool to see just the variety of what can win. Other than that, we had really good judges again, and then we had our own like cozy AMG corner with us too that was there at the same time. That was pretty cool to have, their representation. And the prizes this year were new. First off, I've been begging for dice since like 2017. Or 2019, I think we had those Jolly Ranchers. So I was over the moon to see new dice for this game because, dice is one of those things that nobody trusts third-party dice. Especially in a competitive scene like this. So official prize dice is the best. That's my favorite thing. Anyways, what do you think, Brian?
I mean, my favorite thing was doing really, really well in LCQ. I can't. It's not gonna get any better. That's the best I've ever done in a tournament. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I really liked the Hyatt. We had clean bathrooms, which underrated,
soap and towels, baby. Soap and towels.
Shout out to the the custodial crew for Hyatt. you guys did a great job. I don't know how many listeners we have from the custodial crew on the Hyatt, but it's probably at least a dozen. You guys did a great job. Sincerely, thanks for making it like a nice, clean, friendly environment. There wasn't any trash, left over, anything like that. Uh, very, I did like that. I missed out on the con. Like I didn't even get over there. I do kind of have a little bit like, it would have been nice to get over there. And it did feel for me like a little emptier, in terms of like, this is, it's just a different experience. But that comes with trade-offs. And, the good things is everything Garrett said. And I appreciated all that too. Of we had our space. We could kind of hang out and do, be Armada nerds for a little bit. And, I enjoyed that. I've just been recovering from, my wife has basically said, you have the kids for like the next, 2 weeks. So I've been pretty much just, burned all my social capital, and I need to build it up before I can go and travel for another tournament.
So I've got my son signed up for college. That was the big thing I've done since Adepticon. You'll get there eventually, Ryan. So save your pennies now. I'm going to agree with you on the thing with the Hyatt and the being able to kind of geek out and be an Armada nerd for a while. One thing I thought was unique about Adepticon this year versus last year is that I felt like I was able to spend more time with the Armada folks, even though we were kind of in the same area. It was more intimate. It was a more of all things Armada, and I liked that. And I I got to the main hall once for about an hour, and it was packed and it was loud. So I think we actually got a win in terms of being at the Hyatt. I think the downside to being at the Hyatt, if I'm going to say there is truly one, it's not that we missed out on the con. It's that Armada is one of those great games that has a lot of table presence, more so I think than X-Wing. And same thing with Legion and Shatterpoint. It's you got the individual minis, that's cool, but when you see Armada, there is no terrain on the table. And I guess maybe X-Wing falls into this as well. But I mean, if you have like, Jump Master against, I don't know, a quad jumper and X-Wing, someone may not necessarily recognize the ships. Whereas on Armada, almost every single table, you're going to see a Star Destroyer. You're going to see stuff from the movies. And that, I think, is the cool thing. So there's people that missed out on that. Having said that, I know that there were people that came by that were not Armada players, just looking around at the tables, and they got excited. Both Will Schick and Dallas Kemp, when they came over on their respective days, got a real kick out of all the different fleets that they saw. Dallas had a chance to walk around beforehand. And if anyone's listening, let us know if Dallas stole one of your lit up ships, because, he was eyeing a few of them, ready to just, take them back with them.
To your point, a couple things there, Ken. Everyone brought their painting game this year. Like I feel like last year at Worlds there weren't as many fleets painted. People, I think almost every fleet I played against was painted in some way, which is really cool to see. And I do think the table presence of Armada is probably underrated. I had last year at Worlds, I had an SSD, and I had a ton of people who would come up and just like look and watch the SSD play for a little bit, because this is a massive thing on the table. People want to see what that's all about. I don't think we had a lot of that this year. I just don't think we had some strays that kind of wandered in.
Yeah. And I want to say again, like I think I've said this a dozen times, like I don't think people understand just how many players were playing Asmodee or AMG games. So like I mean, the reason we were in the Hyatt was not because they were like hiding us in the Hyatt. It's because there just wasn't a space.
It's because Adepticon needed another 100,000 square feet, and this was the closest they could put us. So,
and like we need giant tables to play our game for two people compared to everyone else who's like on a 4x4 or 3x3. So it was just the only place you could fit us, and we barely feel like we were putting people in the hallway. So
there was people in the lobby.
Yeah.
It just kind of is what it is at a certain point, but like moving Armada allowed X-Wing and Legion to have their big worlds too. Like if we were stayed there, their numbers would have had to have been smaller too. It is what it is. I was happy with it. I think it worked out pretty well at the end of the day.
I'm going to do
Yeah.
a quick shout out real fast to our judges also. So big thanks definitely to Dennis and Lark and Mercier and Fox. It was great to have them. I know they were running around like chickens with their heads cut off trying to hit all those tables. There's a lot of space that they were constantly trying to keep tabs on across the two rooms and the main hall, just attaching those. So they had a lot of work that they were doing. It was fun to be able to go out with them the one night. I don't know, Ryan, if were you there with us when we went out with the judges? That might have
No,
been.
I wasn't. I was in my
uh,
own feelings. I think I had lost and hadn't made it on. I was just kind of like, I need to regroup.
but I
Uh,
had fun spending some time with them, so that was good. And also, huge shout out to the 12 custodial staff that are watching, because yes,
Yes.
not only were the bathrooms clean, the hallways clean, but because we had to move Thursday night after LCQ from the hallway where we originally set up into the small room where we wound up doing day 1, 2, and 3, there was a whole event that was set up and done that morning and then done through the night. I think they finally left at about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then we had to move everything real fast that night into the room and set up again the next morning. So lot of work. And Garrett, thank you for keeping me sane because you were there the night
oh
before.
yeah, total. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
The
So we
logistics moving of our stream table was something else.
If any of the housekeeping staff is listening, we will send you. Garrett will send you some tater gear. So
Oh yeah, I'll get right on it. Send me your
yeah,
address. I wanted to say forgot to say this. I think you wanted to do like a whole episode on it, but the side events at Worlds were also great and booked. Like people were playing them. So I know sometimes like side events go up at tournaments, nobody signs up. Like these things were stacked. And I think that had something to do with the fact that you needed to play in events to get tickets, and then you exchange your tickets for prizes. So the more you play, the more tickets you got. But we had like task force battles, where they had sector fleet battles, big point games, little point games, team championship, which was a fan favorite. People love that. Like locally here, people are trying to organize a team tournament. I'm like, where are we gonna get enough people to organize this?
Yeah,
I've
I'm
been
glad you
pushing for.
mentioned that.
I've been saying this a long time. Armada needs like your day two. I didn't qualify. I don't. I'm at a con. What do I do?
Yeah,
We talked about like monster truck format or something, but I think the team tournament nails that exactly, and I was glad to see that was a huge success.
yeah,
That's one of
that's
those, if we weren't streaming, I think we should have done like a command stack team. That would have been fun to do. I
Absolutely.
personally would have loved to play in Sector Fleet because my favorite way to play Armada is 1,200 points because I'm crazy. But
that's a lot of points.
yeah, it is. But it's a fun, day and a half to play a game like that. So I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to actually state that. Ryan, I'm sorry about the telestrator. I had it working before we left, and I figured out what the problem was. So for all the folks at home, it's not Garrett's fault. Uh, Garrett, you promised everyone that we were going to have it. So
Listen, we had our backup arrow. All right.
we had the backup arrow. You'll see a short on that sometime the next few weeks. But it wound up being completely a minor technical issue, Wi-Fi not talking to the hard wire. I fixed it, know how to fix it for next year. So Ryan, bring your John Madden for 2025.
Let's do it.
Uh, and otherwise, the only other thing I'm going to say about Adepticon before we move on to Ryan, your experiences playing, is that I enjoyed streaming once again. It was a lot of fun. It was a little easier this year and a little bit more difficult because we threw a lot of new things in our streaming. We went from 4 cameras to I think 8, with a couple other ones on standby just in case. I think we finally got into a good rhythm on day 3. So next year, I think will be better. And it's just one of the things that we were talking a little bit before we started recording was that the real challenge is filling up a lot of that dead space, and that was tough. But I have a couple ideas on that for next year, and we'll talk about that over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
I love that we were able to get all 8, all of the top 8 at some point.
Yeah.
On. I thought that was really cool. So if you go and you look at what are the top 8 fleets at Worlds, you can watch them play a game.
Mhm.
We got them on. So I think that was a really cool thing to do. And then one more thing, the parking really worked out at the Hyatt. Like there was no problem.
Yeah,
So
there's always space. It was crazy.
right.
Yeah.
So if you've never been to the AdeptiCon at wherever the Sheraton or wherever
Renaissance.
at the Renaissance, where like the main building is, you can get there at 8 o'clock and get a space. But if you go to lunch, you will not be able to get a parking space. You'll be like on the grass, you'll be getting towed, like it just won't work. And so this, I had no problem finding a place to eat. I had no problem parking. So I think that was an underrated aspect that just made our lives a little easier.
Definitely. So Ryan, LCQ, you were one of the top 3 out of 40. Tough fights to get in there. And then you did not too bad in day 1. So talk to us about your experience.
Yeah, I didn't have a ticket, and I wanted to play. I had done about 4 store championships, and the thing about the store championships is you have to win them, and I didn't get there, and so I decided to go play. And my thought was, the previous year you looked at the scores, for the top placing fleets that got in, and there were like 32 tournament points, I think. And so that's like averaging 8s. And so I thought I need a big hitter fleet. I need something I'm comfortable with. I need something I can fly well. And so I kind of went back to Radis that I know what I'm doing with. And so I have my drop, which is a profundity with a CR90B with overload pulse. And the profundity's got boarding troopers. And so what that does is when I drop, I'll get the CR90, it'll get the overload pulse off, and before you know it, you won't have any tokens. Whatever ship I'm targeting, defense
It's
token.
the best.
It's
That
really
was a
kills.
fun game to call, watching you do that in real time. I will say that was a real treat for me. I'm glad we actually got you on stream.
Yeah, I was glad I did. Yeah, it was a fun time on stream, and I'm glad I got to do my trick. With the CR90B, I'm throwing 6 dice with the Confire dial, and so like the odds, I don't math Armada, like I strictly do not do that. But someone at some point told me it was like around 87% chance of getting a crit. And the key is, you drop outside of PDIC range, right? And so they can't PDIC it. Blue is longer, blue range is going to be longer. And you get it off. And then I ended up having people towards the end of the tournament who were just like spending all their tokens before I even boarding troopered. I like, because they knew I was just, well, I better spend it now because you're just going to boarding trooper it. And so like there were some times where I didn't boarding trooper. I was like, well, I'll save it for the next trip, next ship, which was part of my problem. But I had a flagship of a Liberty. I just really was worried about MSU. And so I added XI7s to that Liberty, and I thought, if I get in a game with the CR90 Swarm, I need something that can just go hunt them. And so I decided to go with the Liberty with XI7s to go hunt CR90s. This is kind of my thought. And I just had minimal fighter coverage of Shara Tycho. And so my first game I played against Gene. He had an Akbar fleet, and I lost. And part of my education during this tournament was kind of learning when to kind of run and when to stay and fight. And against Gene, I made the mistake of staying to fight, and I should have just picked off one of his. He had a assault frigate conga line Akbar, fun fleet, great opponent. And I turned in, and I should have turned out, and he took me down. And so I was first round. I had a 5-6. Not the end of the world, but like, okay, now we got to get going. And my next round, which you can see on stream, I got a Starhawk, which is what I'm here for. It was a Starhawk with an assault frigate and a Biggs ball, and I was just like, let's go. Like this is what I'm here for. Got the overload pulse, boarding trooper, Starhawk dead in 2 turns. So then I got a 10 out of that. And then I played Rob, who's a local with you, Ken. And I had played Rob before at the last Kentucky Store Championships, and I lost to him. And I thought about that game. It was the round 4, and losing to him prevented me from getting my ticket. And so I kind of thought about that game quite a bit. and he's had he had tweaked his fleet a little bit, and I had tweaked my fleet a little bit. But it was still kind of the same all ship Gar. And I said, all right, I'm going to pick off a Venator and run. And that's what I did and got a 7-4. And so going into the last round, I was in fifth, I think. And I needed, I had like, I don't remember how many points I had. 22 tournament points. And so I needed, I had that eye of like 32 points is kind of what I need and somewhere around there. And so I thought, all right, I got to go big. And I got to play a nice guy. He was flying Sloan with an ISD and a Quasar, and I was like, "This is what I need. I need 2 ships. I can table 2 ships. 3 ships, I can't really get everything on target." So I just went after him, blew the ISD up before it could activate, and that shows you just kind of how lethal the Overload Pulse Boarding Trooper combo is. I activated the CR90, boom, got the crit, and then he actually activated his Quasar first, I think, or maybe it was a Gazanti, thinking he'll survive the shot from the ISD will survive the shot from the MC-75. It did not.
That's some great dice.
It was great dice. Yeah. But here's the thing. And he goes by Danger Panda on the Discord, and I forget his name in real life. Sorry. Matthew? Mm-hmm. Sorry, Matthew was a great opponent. He brought the game back though. So I nuked his ISD. And then I'm like, all right, now I got to go after the Quasar. But his squads then went to work and immediately killed my CR90B. And so I only have, 2 ships too at this point. And he brought his squads in, killed, took down my Liberty. And it all came down to, and this is just shows you how tight of a tournament LCQ is. All came down to, I need 1 damage on a Quasar in the last round. My Profundity is going to live. But he had scored so many points by killing my Liberty and my CR90 and Shara Tycho. He hadn't gotten to Shara and Tycho yet. But so I Ahsoka a token that I had on the Profundity into a squad token, sent Tycho in to bomb. And Matthew hadn't seen that yet, that I was going to do that. It's because Tycho's amazing. He doesn't, he's not restricted. So I put him right next to some Imperial fighters, but he could go bomb. And I needed a hit. And the hit and the Quasar would go down, and I got it. And Tycho rolled a hit. I got an 8-3, and I got in. I got in with 30 points. If Tycho had missed, I get a 3-8, and I'm not even close to LCQ. So it's just, sometimes it just comes down to that, the dice. But it just shows you. I got in very, very lucky, very, very lucky to get in. I had some great opponents, but I went 3-1 on the day, and got in and decided to mix up my fleet for the next day.
Well, the most impressive thing was, again, like only the top 3 got to go to Worlds after LCQ. So like you did real good.
Yeah, that's
make that cut.
That was the best I ever did, and I had that mentality through the tournament. I was like, I just have to keep going, like just wait for my matchup, keep going. Get the points for it. And I kind of felt aggressive, like I needed to be aggressive. Sometimes I was too aggressive, like in my first game. But just like it was a deep field too. We had Respirodius, Justin Rasmussen, who was on the stream for the 4th game. He was top 8 at Worlds last year.
He usually makes top 8 at most things he goes to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just missed it by like MOV, like I think he got 5th or 6th, and he like just missed it. And it was just like really, really great players like missed out.
29 tournament points. He needed 1 more and he would have made it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's just a very brutal, brutal event, frankly. But
yeah,
best I'd ever done. Best I'd ever done in a tournament.
So Ryan does really well under pressure. I'm going to mark that down.
My wife is immediately unhappy, right? Because she knows, now he's going to play in Worlds. He's going to stay longer. I have to watch these kids longer.
Oh man,
She was happy. She was happy that I was happy. But
how was day 1 for you? I mean,
So I mean, I didn't really get an opportunity to help out with you guys because I was looking to build a fleet. I wanted to mix up, my fleet, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I never flown the fleet before exactly. I had flown a fleet very similar. So I don't want to say like I had this brand new concept, but I had a fleet kind of similar to what I flew 2 years ago at Gen Con. And it's the same deal. MC75 Radis, CR90B, that trick is the same. That didn't really, but I changed the Liberty, I downshifted from the Liberty to a CR90 with more squads. And I just felt I needed more squads. And I said to myself, if I ever get to go to Worlds again, I'm going to fly Han Solo. And so that was part of it. I was like, I told this to myself a long time ago, and then I flew. So I took Han Solo, but I didn't have any. I only brought one fleet with me to Worlds. I brought my LCQ fleet. So thank you to Henry, who helped me flesh out my fleet and find some YT-2400s for me to finish out my Rebel fleet. So that's what I flew. My first two games went well. I won my first game 6-5, and then I got matched up against a Superstar Destroyer round 2. So I got a 9-2, which is exactly the kind of matchup I'm looking for. So I was at 15 tournament points after 2 rounds in 10th place, and I was feeling really good. I was like, I just need a win. I just need like one more win, and I'll be in. And so I played my next round against a Polish guy, Gregor. He was super nice. He brought magnets from his country, from Poland, and so he like puts them all on the table before the game, buttering me up probably, but like just puts them out there and is like, here's for my country, here's a magnet, like this is great. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I got it on my fridge now. It's magnet of Krakow, so it's really cool. Great opponent. I made my mistake. Here's where I made my mistake of I took the vendor. He was flying a Gar fleet, and he eventually made day 2. Took the Venator out, nuked it, but I decided to turn in and try to keep fighting the fleet when I should have just run. And so I lost 5-6, but 5-6 is still good. I got 20 points so I'm still in the hunt. And then I played another Poland guy, Prez. Got a 5-6 against him. He was flying Seppi squads. So I ended up missing out by 1 tournament point. So I was really close, but didn't quite make it. But I was very happy with how I did. One more tournament point I would have gotten in, but I only got in because Tycho got a hit in LCQ. So that's just kind of how it is. And so I didn't want to feel too greedy at that point. I did want to say with my fleet, the one thing I want to say. Overload Pulse Boarding Trooper worked every time. I had 8 games, right? Every time I got the Overload Pulse crit to go off, and when I wanted to, I'd spend Boarding Troopers. Sometimes I didn't want to because they had already spent all their tokens. But that trick works. That part, that like 200 points of the fleet works. The rest of it,
damage control officer people. Don't leave home without him in Kentucky.
The rest of the fleet is a work in progress still.
Well, you mentioned 1 point, and one of the things that was a story throughout all 4 days, 1 tournament point made all the difference.
It's not even tournament points, Ken. It was MOV.
You get an MOV also, yeah. But I mean,
that's what separated people.
Right. But what I'm saying is you're looking at just 1 point anywhere on there, which could be a roll or just a slightly different navigational position when you're maneuvering. It was such a tight tournament all 4 days. It was just incredible to see everyone competing. You were pretty much in it. Like you said, you had 2 wins at the beginning of day 2. You had a 5-6 loss as your 3rd game. You still felt like you were in the hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think almost everyone felt that way, generally speaking, until you get into your final round and you're like, I'm losing this one because of a bad matchup. Or you're like, I got a shot at this.
We were talking, a lot of the players throughout the day, about how the middle of, there were a lot of players in it. And we were kind of saying, like the people, there were, 1 or 2 players were kind of running away with it and we're having a day. But, like everybody was just kind of in it at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Like
definitely.
it didn't matter if you got a 7. You needed to get a 7 with the max amount of points you could have done it. Or like carry away a game and just get a ton of victory token points. Because like literally people missed the cut by like 15 points, 15 margin of victory points.
Yeah.
For day 3 and stuff. So I think like there was like 30 players, 26 TP points. It's wild.
It was crazy, but it was fun to call.
Yeah.
And
Also shows how good our meta is right now. Very balanced.
it's an awesome state that the game is in right now because we saw so many different fleets competing. It wasn't all onagers or what it would have been, 6 months ago, Anakin Skywalker. It was such a good variety. It was great. And then almost any commander, I mean, minus like Constantine, had a good shot at making it every single day. And I think that just speaks to, like you said, Garrett, how awesome the state of Armada is right now.
Real good place.
Which means it's prime time to throw in something to totally mess that up and change the economics of Armada. But
yeah,
we'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
It'd be fun and exciting. And then Ryan, you could show us how Overload Pulse works once again.
I think I did. I think mission accomplished.
I would say you did. And then Ryan, this was last year your voice gave out, so you weren't able to really help us in the booth. So this was your first time streaming and actually got a full day in. Any fun little tidbits on that?
I loved it. I was a little nervous to start, but then like once we started talking and calling that first game, I was like, this is awesome. Like I was just like, I had a good time. I think, you talk about a lot of downtime. I don't as like the broadcaster or whatnot. Like I didn't feel that. I was just like, I felt like I was trying to maybe try to fill the space maybe too much, but like it was a lot harder, than I thought. I guess is kind of what I'm saying. It wasn't easy just to kind of just. It's not like we have training to do this, right? Like I didn't go and
some games make it easier. Some games make it more challenging, depending on what's happening.
We're not like practicing calling games or like we're not. That's not what we're doing. We have better things to do with their time. But it was a lot harder to just kind of think on your feet and think about it. But it was I had a blast. So I think the only thing that I could take away is that maybe I'm wrong about Han not being a pirate. So
maybe I'm wrong. That's good character growth.
Yeah.
That short is just generating a lot of comments.
Yeah,
one
go watch
or the other. So
if you want to know what that's all about, go watch our short.
So funny.
So let's talk stats.
Statin.
I think we're going to talk stats. And Garrett, you're calling them the Ruben stats.
Yeah. So Ruben, who's a what do you call that? He was promoted to guest host via a polo given to him at the end of AdeptiCon. But no, he's a really good friend in the Bluegrass battle group
that aren't hanging around with us when we're setting up and taking down our streaming gear. Last year, Ruben came up and gave us a lot of help setting up and taking down. And he did it again this year. Really helped a lot in taking it down because we had a lot more equipment this year than last. Also, quick shout out to Mars from Fly Casual because he helped us out Thursday night in moving everything from the hallway in.
Yes.
So thanks a lot, Mars. We appreciate that. But yeah, so
he was jet lagged, so he was it was like daytime.
He was wide awake. It was like normal time for him. But Ruben is I guess our official roadie, I'm going to say. With maybe we'll be nice and let him, help us out behind the camera one day. But anyways,
he did great here. He put together some really good day 2 stats, which I think was a good day to pick. Because that, I don't like the word weeds out the not good stuff, but it's just like what was, the best. I think day 2 is even better than day 3 stats, really, because it's a bigger pool of people and a better breadth of data. Because day 3, it's like, how are the dice going to go? Anybody can win. So anyways, he got a lot of stuff here, so we're going to try and
So
not go too detailed.
For those who don't know, the tournament started at 114 players, went to 36 for day 2. So we played 4 rounds day 1 of, and depending on how you scored, you went on if you were in the top 36.
Yeah. So the biggest thing here is if we're looking at what factions made it. Obviously, Empire's most popular. I will say overall in this game, more people bring Empire than anything. And on day 2, he's got the best percentages. So forgive me, I'm gonna call it out as percentages, but 44% of players were Empire, 36 were Rebel, 36%. So that's a pretty good, that's 12 Rebel players, about 14, 15. And then from there, Separatists were the third biggest. And then Republic, I think only 2 people. 2 or 3 people made it to day 2. And I think a lot of that had to do with not because the Republic's not good, but because a lot of the best Republic players were playing other factions for this event, which I thought was, not as exciting. I would have hoped, like, I think Machi's, he's one of them. He's a really good Gar player from California, and he played an Onager build. But I would have liked to see what he could have done with Bale and see how far he could have taken him. But moving on, the most popular commanders, obviously the Empire has the most variety. So right off the bat, Sloane takes the cake as the most popular. She's just so powerful for the points and how she makes every squadron just an animal. And then you've got
how many Sloanes?
31%. So like a third almost are Sloane of those.
Of the Empire.
Of the Empire, yes. And then 25% were Jajerjerod. And then Thrawn, which is really surprising to see because he kind of fell off for a long time. He's back. And I think there was 2 Thrawns on the last day, including the top table. Montana was Thrawn 2 ship. And then, of course, Ozzel, Mahdi, and then Piet, surprisingly, you don't not see him a lot. And then Ramadi, who's like he was the big bad last year, and he just was not. He had an 8-point uptick, and he is not as popular. He really got replaced by, I guess, Thrawn kind of took his spot, right? Because Sloane was still popular last year, and so was Jerry, but Thrawn swap with Ramadi.
So I wonder how much of that is with the points change with Ramadi and the changes to the Onager Star Destroyers, both the test bed and the Star Destroyer.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
the calculus there. So then you start looking at what do you want to use beyond that, and maybe that's where Mahdi comes in, etc. And then as far as Sloane goes, I wonder how much of that was pre-errata, everyone looking at what's a good way to defeat Anakin. Sloane was one of the options, and maybe just had people that were really digging into using Sloane as a counter to Anakin that just got used to playing it, and they're like, well, I'm going to continue doing that.
I don't know. I'd push back and say Sloane's just, as soon as she's been top dog since she came out. That's just so good. Like the ability to spend somebody's defense tokens.
I mean, people, I'll say, like, our world champion from 2019, Dennis Rashke, he was there. He made he made the day 2 cut. He flew his Sloane fleet that he always flies too. And so, I think that was an element too. There were a lot of people there who, if I had to guess what their fleets were, I probably could have told you, because people are comfortable flying their fleets. And I think that's an important element too. I'm comfortable with Radis, so I flew Radis, right? And people did well with the fleets that they're comfortable and practiced with. I think that's an element too.
Yes. If Sloane's been out for 7 years, something crazy like that. So Rebel commanders, really no surprises here. But Akbar, back on top, baby. He's a third of the players, Akbar, with his assault frigates. And then Agate was a quarter of the players. And then Riken and Radis tied. And then Kraken was the least popular. So those 5 admirals, Akbar, Agate, Kraken, Radis, Riken, which we said they're the best. They just are. They're the most versatile and well-point-based or well-priced admirals who make your fleet do things.
I think we kind of called that too. In terms of who we were deciding we're going to make it in. In fact, I'm looking right now at what we thought would come up, and we have Akbar, Agate, Kraken, Riken, and Radis. So we clearly we knew that one well in advance.
Those are your five. Yeah, those are your five kind of rebel staple.
Yeah, those are your
Yeah.
A and S tier admirals.
And oddly enough, when you look at the Imperial ones, we had Thrawn and Jerry and Ramadi and Sloane. We picked Ozzel, who
Ozzel
was
was
in
in
there
there.
as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've got these covered, but again, same kind of thing. But I think which ones we were expecting to show up higher, and we'll get this later.
Right.
We're a little different.
And all these commanders are good. And so
Mhm.
wink, wink, AMG, let's bring the other ones up to these levels. All right. But anyways, my favorite layout here is Separatists. So the only one who got left out was our boy Kraken.
Huh.
And TF 1726. TF was present on day one, but Kraken was not in this tournament at all. But Grievous, there was 2 players of the Grievous on the last day, and then there was a Dooku, a Martuk, a Trench, and one more. Accidentally, it says Kraken here, but it's not Kraken. It's what's his name? What's our other commander?
Trench. Yeah.
Trench. I got Trench on here.
Trench, Grievous, Dooku, Kraken, TF.
We missed. I gotta check.
We do Martuk.
Yeah,
Martuk.
we got Martuk on here.
Well, those are the 6.
We got him.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I messed up. I didn't think Kraken made it to day 2, but it says here on he did. So I trust Ruben's stats here. I must have just went right by that when I was reading these.
Kraken
yeah.
did not make day 2. Kraken did. I'm
Yeah.
looking at.
So this must be wrong. But that's okay.
We're gonna demote Ruben for
but I do know Dooku, Grievous, Martuk, and Trench was there. Especially Grievous. Grievous did very well at this tournament.
Grievous made top 8, which is really cool.
He did last day.
Shout out to Justin who flew Trench. I didn't think you could really make Trench work, but he did and he got day 2. So
watching it play Trench, it set off a bunch of light bulbs in my head. I was like, oh, okay, that's how we do this.
There were a few fleets that I was considering if I was going to go into LCQ, and I did have a Trench fleet in mind as one of the possibilities for me to bring in.
He got me all excited about playing Trench. So, but anyways, so Dooku did really well. Grievous did really well, and then Martuk a Trench was also in the top 36. So I mean, that's what we expect for CIS. Now, one thing is I think Ryan shouted out TF 1726 would do good. I think that's what you said. I do apologize if I'm wrong, but
yeah, he didn't make.
He didn't make day 2, and I think it's because he's takes so many points to make his ability to work that you don't have room for the other stuff, and you just get crowded out on a table with really competitive fleets, and they overwhelm your the stuff you're missing because you're taking stuff like BT rocket troopers and just this Rube Goldberg machine trying to get TF to work.
I blame it on Michael Dunn, who was former U.S. national champion and was the only person to take TF. I think that's a problem. Only one person in the 114 person field took TF, so that's going to be difficult. I was wrong on that. That was definitely wrong.
Trying to see here.
Michael and I are friends, so it's okay.
For Republic, sorry, I'm just looking through graphs here.
Well, I think the thing with Republic is how few made day 2.
Right, there was only 2.
There's only 2. There's a Bale fleet and a Plo Koon fleet, which I was actually excited to see Plo Koon getting up in there because I think we were initially thinking it was going to be predominantly Luminara and Bale.
I played that Bale fleet. That was Gregor from Poland who gave me the Bagnet, and it was a 134 type of heavy squadrons. Have Anakin, Ahsoka, Axe, kickback, move them up with fighter coordination teams. Didn't have Mercy Mission, which I give him credit for not doing that, and he went with Svats instead. And the Svats were a real tough thing to negotiate.
Okay.
We put it out there. So
All right, sorry.
I did destroy the Venator before he put this fat out, because he didn't expect it, but I still lost him, and he made it day 2. So
Yeah, the 2 commanders who made it day 2 are Bail Organa and Plo Koon, which is really surprising. I thought watching day 1 players play, Yularen was going to make it.
He won LCQ.
Yularen did win LCQ. Andrew from Georgia. So, yeah, Bail and Plo Koon, both good admirals from last year too. They're just, Plo Koon makes squadrons super powerful, and Bail just is a beast. Any commander that gives you extra command dials is good. Squadrons. Everybody brought a lot of squadrons.
Yeah.
Like
over
100 to 134.
Yeah.
How many squadrons?
So, half the field there was only 4 players who brought 0. And then, right. And then there was, up to 82 points, it was only like 4 more players or 5 more players. And then the rest of them had, 86 up to 134, which is a hefty amount of fleet points. Like that's a quarter of your fleet in squads. So I think that's a big thing. 7 people out of the 36 had 134 points straight. And that number keeps you, if you go 130 to 134, which is basically all of them, it's 14 players, which is almost half.
That's
a full squad ball. So yeah, squadrons are important, and this meta showed that like squadron play is going to be rewarded. I don't think there was any squadless fleets that made the top 8 of day 3.
No, I think everyone had more than a token squadron.
And this shows like why Thrawn, right, for the Empire, along with Sloane, is powerful, because Thrawn lets you squad command and engineer a nav. So that's interesting. Bids that we looked at here for the top 36, 8 players had a bid of 0. And then there was 8 players who had a bid of 10 or more, which I think is interesting. And then like in between, it's the rest of them. But that's 8 or more players having a bid of 10 or more, and then 8 players having a bid of 0. There's not like a big bid meta or a little bid meta. It was just, what can you make work? So, if you want to bid for that second player or not.
Everyone had, everyone, if you didn't bring a bid, you were totally comfortable going first or second. A lot of the top squad fleets had a bid of 0 because, as a squadron player with 134, if you go first, great, you get a great squad alpha. And if you go second, fine, you're going to play squadron objectives. And it's a bad situation to be in.
Yeah. And then deployments. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I took a quick look at day 3 because I was just curious to see what the squadrons look like in day 3. And of those 8 fleets, 6 of them were 123 points or more, with 3 of them at 130 to 134 points. 1 at 82 and 1 at 49. So
but those were the top 2 fleets.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Oh yeah, because
the next point that the top 2 fleets had sub 100 points in squadrons. So it's interesting. By the same token, Rebel squadrons, so Lando was in there, Tico was in there, some Z95s were in there. Actually, Z95s were in both of the top 2 fleets. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, going
I don't
into
think Peter's had it.
Yeah, Peter had a Z95.
He had one. Okay.
He had Gold Squadron and Z95 and 2 VCXs.
And 2 VCXs.
But his fleet with the Starhawk and his Nebulon was a little bit different as far as like squad play goes, like fleet on fleet action. But back to these stats real fast. I just wanted to get through these 2 deployments. So if you're coming to a game of Armada deployments, it's how many 2 squads and how many ships you have to put down on the table. The average is 7. That is the predominant. 15 players brought 7 deployments, and then outliers from that either bring 6 to 9, and then there was only 5 players who had 5 or less. So again, that goes back to the squadrons, right? But when everybody's got that many, it doesn't, their advantage isn't as big. So and then activations, 4 activations is king. 18 people had 4 activations. 6 people had 5 activations, and that was max. No huge swarms made it to day 2. Nothing crazy. No big MSU. But like your typical, like, multiple CR90s or stuff like that did make it, or like a Raider.
Because I wasn't playing. I was streaming.
Exactly. Yeah. There was only 2 players who had 2 activations. So like 2 ships. Because everyone did bring like Raiders or Kazantes, right? To pad it out. And then last stuff that's really interesting here is what commanders brought, what quantity of squads. So on the Empire side, Jerry, like, no squads. Almost all Jerry's had no squads at all. I think one Jerry had an 85-point ball. Mahdi was low. He had a 75-point ball.
What's up? One of those Jerry's was an SSD, which I think we should also shout out.
Yes.
No squads, obviously, on the SSD, but I think that's the first time an SSD has made the day 2, at least in these last 2 years of Worlds.
2 SSDs, right?
Do we have 2 SSDs in this field?
I'm pretty sure this Piat is a SSD, but I could be wrong.
No, the Piat's like a Star Destroyer Piat.
That's interesting. I didn't see that fleet fly. But that Piat brought 107 points. Ramadi was low at 69 points, but obviously Sloan and Thrawn, 120 to 134, right? Those are your 2 squadron commanders here. And there was an Ozzel at 124. But, overall, Sloan and Thrawn, Jerry, low. For the Rebels, it was Akbar and Riken, of course, had big balls. Kraken did. The only notable one who didn't bring a lot of squads was Agate. She had a 0, 49 point, Tycho, Selchi, blah, 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 and then 86. But the rest of them, all the Rebels brought fighters, a lot of them. So there was only 1 squadless Rebel fleet for day 2. And then for the CIS, all of them brought all of the squads, except for Martuk, who brought 76 points worth. But Trench and Grievous and Dooku, 132, 128, 131.
I think squads, there's security in having 134 and knowing, all right, I will at the worst case scenario, I'll have parity, with my opponent. And in most of the scenarios, I'll have an advantage. And I think a lot of people are good at leveraging the squadron advantage into points, right? Into scoring those critical tournament points that they need. And so I think it's kind of the takeaway. But very few of those fleets were like all bomber fleets or whatnot. There was a real mix of, all right, I'll have 80 points of anti-squad and then 50, 60 points of bombers. It was that kind of, if you look at those builds, it was a very similar kind of like build pattern in terms of what most of those 134 balls were like.
Yeah, and I think this is testament, like, if you want to play Armada, you gotta know how to play squads. So
the game was made as a combined arms game.
Yeah, well, it's World War II, right? So you gotta have your carriers, you gotta have your fighters. So, but yeah, those are all the really interesting ones. Again, really good breakdown. It was, the only sad part was like, it wasn't just 2 more Republic players would have padded out that lineup really well, I think, given how popular and how much stuff there is to purchase for CIS and Clone Wars. So there's no question like why there's less players playing them. There's just more variety in Empire and Rebels. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Anything else you want to add to that?
My only other thing I wanted to point out is how tight kind of the scores were again on day 2. There weren't a lot of free points out there. I'll just say, looking at the scores, and by what I mean by that is, if you look at the first 3 rounds of play, this was another 4-round day. If you look at the first 3 rounds, there were only 3 10-1s. Okay, out of all those tables, and 18 tables, what is that? 36, 54 out of 54 games, right? There were 3 10s, and in round 4, there was another 10, but it was in a much lower player table for a player who was kind of out of it at that point. But of those people who got 10s, there were 3 people who got 10s in the first 3 rounds. Every single one of them went on to the top 8. So, we kind of talk about, all right, a 7-4 fleet is exactly kind of what you want. If you get 7-4 every game, you move on. I kind of push back against that and say, look, if you can have a fleet that can get 10-1s, and some of that's matchup based, okay? Some of it's matchup based, and I didn't analyze how these 10-1s went down or anything like that. But if you have a fleet that can kind of get that big burst, big score, you have a little bit more leeway the rest of the time. One of those players was Chris, who we streamed in round 4. He had an even record. He was 2-2 on the day, but he had that big 10-1 to help him propel him into day 3. So just something to think about for these 4-round tournaments.
Yeah, even more interesting. Like, he started off like kind of rough. He got a 5 and then a 4, and then had to hit 2 big ones at the end, which he did. Got a 10 and an 8.
Right. And he ended up getting second in the whole tournament, so he got the silver medal.
Right, you can't complain about results like that, can you? I mean, but again, this goes to showcase one of the things that I think is awesome about Armada, and this is something that you saw in LCQ in day 1 and day 2. Because you're playing for 4 rounds, it kind of eliminates some of the you might have a bad matchup, because you're got enough games where you can afford to have a loss and still move forward. And I think that's kind of one of the benefits of it. I mean, you get to day 3, then that's more of the dice are going to have more of a play and a role in the game, pun intended.
Shout out to our friend Damon, who Ohio River Valley champion Damon Jordan, who got 9th and missed it by 15 MOV.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're past tournament points anymore. Now it's you guys store points on the board too.
Right. It's like 2 vultures,
Yeah.
So I wanted to save the tournament point versus margin of victory points to this moment, but there you go. Tight tournament, and it was tight the whole time, and regardless of what day you look at, it just, you would expect to see more scores in the 30s, and it's the vast majority. I bet you if I sat down and did averages, would be closer to 25, 24 as a median.
Or even less. Like, 23, 24. So I don't know. It's tight field, good competition, good balance right now. I would argue, I think I see, I haven't been playing since 2015, but I see a lot of veteran players say, like, this is the healthiest the game has ever been.
Yes, definitely. That is a great meta right now, showing by the variety of fleets that people brought.
Yeah. And I think you're right on this one, Garrett. Day 2 just giving you like the cream of the crop from that original set of 114, and there's still a lot of variety. And I think that's kind of cool. And it wasn't just necessarily commanders, but I know that I got an opportunity to kind of walk around a little bit on day 2. There were a lot of different fleet archetypes, builds, and everything else. It was just really neat to see.
Yeah,
I know last year it was all onagers.
Onagers, and then like the best, just stuff that you had to take because you had to plan on getting sniped by Cataclysm, right? Just stuff like that, as an example. I know there's other ways to get around it, blah, blah, blah. But
onagers are still good. They're just kind of properly priced now. Jackson, who got 3rd, he brought an onager, right? And he has got a devilish of a fleet. Sloaniger is the archetype, but they're still good. They're still out there. You can bring them, but they're just not omnipresent as what they used to be.
Yeah,
right. They don't have all those extra points you can pour into making the meanest, 4A squad ball of all time. You just can't really afford to do that, and then like have everything else trigger on the onager. So. No, I mean, there's, some stuff's never going to change. I don't think, like Merrick, Jendin, Vader, and then whatever.
I do think Jendin is one of the least interesting things right now about Imperial squad balls, right? Because it's just like that Jendin is so good, right? I've always talked about things that give extra attacks. Really got to think hard about about putting them into the game because
Right.
everybody had Jendon. Of the Imperial players who brought squad balls, I'd be surprised if any of them didn't have Jendon in that top
Right.
30, in that top
It'd be
30
silly not to, because Jendon makes he duplicates whatever super squadron you have. And,
whatever you need in that moment too, right? So like
Right.
if you need Saber, yeah, right. If you're going to snipe Anakin, you go Jendon or Saber squadron. If you need bombing, you go Jendon Merrick. You know, it's just whatever you need. It's so flexible.
Mhm.
Right. And he's hard to kill. So
Yeah.
on top of everything. So
Right.
I don't know. Wink wink, maybe Jendon needs looked at. But yeah. No. So if you're a casual player, newer player, go on T4, take a look at day 2, go through these lists, and you'll see what's great. Now, I can't promise you can just take this list and go win something, because obviously you need to practice, but this shows you how things go together. And then you can go over to Ion Radio's YouTube and then watch the fleet in action and see how it's supposed to function. So lots of good stuff to learn here.
A lot of cool ideas, you know, like I'm looking through, and just a lot of go to the T4 too, that has all the fleets up, and take a look and just try to get cool ideas.
Demolisher's back, baby.
Along with a couple
through.
other titles that are different, which is a great segue
There you go.
into our next part here. This is what I'm all about. Garrett, this is what I'm good at with the streaming, is just moving from one part to the next. Talking about some different, like, we're going to call them the Command Stack Awards. And this is kind of Ryan's thing, right? So Ryan, I'm going to let you introduce the first award, which we're calling the Director Izard Award.
Yes. So I wanted to do a couple of awards, and I only got a few down before I just life got a hold of me. Like I said, I've been taking a lot of time with the kids. But so this is the Director Izard Award. This goes to we each kind of nominate the player who brought the most random card. You know, the card that is you don't see a lot. And it's to kind of celebrate uniqueness and fleet building. So it's not a bad thing. By any stretch of the imagination. I kind of put a lot. We have a lot of nominees for the Director Izard Award. I don't know if we have a winner or we just have nominees.
I think we're just going to nominate them and let the comments decide. Right
there. You go. So my one goes to Matt Moncrief, who made day 2. He's from California, I believe. He brought Admiral Shiranu. He was the only person in the field to bring Admiral Shiranu. And it's not because, you know, Admiral Shiranu is bad. He is pretty good. And Matt got day 2 with him, but you just don't see it a lot. And what he lets you do is kind of he lets you move squadrons around without having to worry about engagement. And so it's really clutch because Matt paired him with Mauler, right? So if Mauler gets tied down, Shiranu activates him and lets him move and splash again. That's why it's one of the ways you use them. Or you use them if a bomber is tied down, you can move him into different flak ranges or whatnot. So Admiral Shiranu, you don't see him because he's 10 points, I think, most of the time. It's just a lot. Unique, cool ability. When used well, it can be deadly. But so shout out there. I was very, very glad to see that card. Only time that card was brought.
Brian was real generous and presented me with one because I did not realize I was supposed to do homework for this. He gave me
I didn't either.
He gave me forgive me if I say his name wrong, Daniel Bolaco. So he brought Insidious on a gladiator. And not because he already had a demolisher, like he purposely put Insidious on a gladiator. And Insidious is the title that lets you shoot your black dice at medium range. All sounds great so far, right? But only at the rear of a ship, which is so challenging to present yourself in a situation where that goes right. I don't know. He could be an expert. I can get to see him fly. But however, it is in hot competition with Demolisher. Right?
It is a very good candidate for the Izard Award.
Yes, I would be curious if he got to use it. If anybody knows him or if he watches this, Daniel, you should let us know.
Honestly, we had to look it up. We can't lie. Like we had to look
it up. I thought it was the Raiders like other title, but I was no.
No, that's Impetuous. No.
Instigator. Instigator, yeah.
Yeah, another I. So
Shout out to Daniel, just legend bringing Insidious.
yeah.
That's amazing.
He also brought his backup. He brought Sunder on his onager, which is 10 points, and I hate that card because I've been personally ruined by it.
You
However,
got sundered.
it is not a popular title to say the least. But yeah, no, Insidious. Let us know. Did you do it? Because he had APTs. So I don't know. Maybe he got APTs at medium range on a back shot. Well, all right. That's it. That's mine. That's mine. Thanks, Ryan.
So the one I'm going to bring up, Ryan, you said Paul brought Relentless. Do you remember which Paul it was?
Yes, PT 106 Paul. Golden State game or not Golden State game Paul who won with Marty. He's my list. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm sorry. Paul Tom. The Paul, you know.
Thomas Shvetsky, right?
I'm going to let
Yes,
Garrett
yeah,
go with that one. The internet will tell us if we're wrong. Paul will probably let us know if we're wrong.
One of the nicest guys on the planet. Just
right
FYI, in case you didn't know.
Top
Five.
Brought
Nice.
Relentless. That's cool. Knocking an ISD down from 3 command dials to 2. You can plan a little bit differently with it. And I kind of like that conceptually. Just you don't see it come up very much. Usually you've got Avenger or you've got sometimes you're going to use Sovereign because you're dealing with the Tarkin build. Are probably your 2 more popular ones that you're going to see. Relentless, I very rarely see, at least not in competitive play, just because at that point you already know what you're doing, but it gives you that extra little edge of flexibility, which is maybe something we need to kind of go back and look at. What I would love to know, and I'm guessing the answer is no, that Director Izard was probably not at Worlds.
I checked.
Okay.
She was not. She can't win her own award. She was, yeah.
Can't win her own award. Okay, so that's fair. That's fair. So leave in the comments for this video, or if you're listening to us on the podcast, let us know who you think should win the Director Izard Award, because those are some good ones that we have. And if you have other ones that you think can win that award, throw them in by taking a look at the T4 schedules and then letting us know, because that's fun. Again, bring some light to some of the less used cards.
Well, I think it goes to show you too, like we're not just there's flexibility there, and we're not just like a strictly min-max kind of community, right? Like people find flavor. Like I brought Han Solo, right? I was the only person who brought Han Solo. I like the flavor of that. And you can use these cards and do well with them. And Matt made day 2 with Admiral Shiranu. You know, like it's just we're not a min-maxing community. Like we're just not. And people like to fly what they like to fly, and whether that's Insidious or Relentless, it's just really cool to see on the table. And if I were your opponent, I'd be really thrilled that you brought something that was cool and unique, and it would make for a game I've never had before.
And you got to sit there and say, what does that card do again?
Right. Immediately ask for it. Immediately say, what is Insidious?
Right. I knew it had to do with
okay.
black dice, but I couldn't remember the rest of it, if I'm going to be honest.
I didn't know what ship it was when I saw it.
I knew it was a Gladiator, so that much I knew.
Ken gets points for that.
I get points for that. And I get points for our little competition that we did last year.
Smooth segue. Here's another smooth segue here. Just killing on segues, Ken.
I'm good at this. I tell you, I missed my true calling in life to be, a radio broadcaster or
for a minor league baseball team. You could,
that's what I need to do. So I'm sure there's an opening somewhere. I'll make my YouTube millions that way, right?
Come down and do the Louisville Riverbats. We'd love to have you.
Sure, I could do that. That'd be fun.
Or we got rid of the Riverbats. We're like the Sluggers now. The Riverbats were great and they got rid of it. So sorry. No, actually, Garrett's team. I don't know. We're going on the minor league baseball team.
Go for it.
Garrett's was the Lexington Legends, and then they became the Lexington Counterclocks because the horses run counterclockwise around the track. Such an outcry from the Lexington Armada community that they changed it back to the Lexington Legends this year.
Wow, fun facts that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Amazing. So back to our Admiral predictions.
The fun we have on the show.
I gotta say, I automatically win because I picked the winner. So how it works.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, John told me personally. That's how it works. Actually,
I mean, to be fair, you did, of the 4 different factions, you did pick 2 admirals that made it in of your 4 choices, because you picked Agate and Grievous.
yeah.
So you got 2 right.
Yeah.
And
But Luminara screwed me. All right, let's go through these.
John also got 2 right.
We get to do you first. Let's go by faction, right? Let's go by faction.
Okay. All right.
So by Empire, Ken picked Thrawn, who made it to day 3.
Yeah.
So Thrawn got 5th place. So I mean Ken gets 5 points. Yeah. Is how we're doing this.
This is golf. Low score wins.
Yeah. Lowest score wins. It's just me, Garrett. I picked Jared, who almost didn't even make top 16 overall. So he got 15th. I got 15 points for that. Adrian, our co-host, picked for Mahdi. Safe pick. Did not do super hot. Number 26 overall. Ryan with the Sloan 3rd place, baby. That's 3 points. And then John picked Ozzel. Another good pick. 8th place, day 3. Akbar, we all did pretty good here.
Yeah, we did.
I'm sorry, Rebels. Ken picked Akbar. Good choice. 2nd place. I picked Agate. Yes, that was an easy one. I stole that one. Adrian picked Kraken, he got 16th overall, still pretty good. Ryan picked Riken, who placed 13th, and John picked Radis, who got 11th place.
Look at that though. All the 5 Rebel Admirals that we can talk about, all were in the top 16.
Right. Yeah. Well, they were the 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, we did. That's the made the top day 2. These are the 5 Rebels that made day 2. So that's pretty good stats. Republic just absolutely wrecked us. Just destroyed the system here. Ken picked you, Lauren, who got 37.
And I thought about picking Bale.
Yeah, you should have. I picked Luminara and got punished. Luminara got 77th overall. What's happened? This ruined my score, everybody. And then Adrian also picked Luminara. Ryan picked you, Lauren, as well. And then John picked Bale, who still only gave him 23 points because he got 23rd overall. Rough. Absolutely rough.
There were only like 3 or 4 Luminara fleets.
Well, there wasn't many Republic fleets to choose from overall. But we got one more reward we got to talk about. This is reward related to that. But CIS, everybody. Ken picked Dooku, who got 9th. My boy Damien Santos. I picked Grievous, who got 7th. So that was awesome. It really helped my Luminara score. Adrian picked Martuk, who got 35th. Ryan picked TF, who got 66th.
Michael Dunn.
Yeah. And then John picked Grievous as well. So overall, John won. But he's not here, so it doesn't count.
Yep.
And then technically Ken got 2nd at 53. And then Luminar gave me 100. Adrian, since he's not here, we can talk mad smack about him. He got 154 points. Get wrecked, Adrian. And then Orion came in a cool 4th at 119, I think that says. So, but overall, I think we went by like day 3 results. I got 2 right and John got 2 right. Yeah.
Well, we hold ourselves accountable here and have a bit of fun with this. But I think Ken is 2-year champion because I think you won last year too.
Yeah, I went back and looked. I won last year. So I what this tells you, folks, for those of you listening at home, I am really good at telling you what admirals are going to do very well competitively.
And then you don't pick them.
Occasional mistake. And I will pick someone completely different because I'd bring Trench or Draven or, I don't know. If I was going to go on the Republic side, I would probably pick Tarkin for fun, and on the Imperial side, Constantine. So I mean, don't play what I say you should play. Play who I think's going to win.
Yeah. I hope everyone had fun with that. I think people put predictions down in the comments of that video too, right?
There were a few in our last command stack. So I'll have to go back and look at those and
go back and cross check for yourselves.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, what's our last award?
Our last award is the prestigious Lando or Mace Windu Award for bad ideas. This is in honor of Mace Windu going into Darth Sidious's chamber, going into Emperor Palpatine with only 4 Jedi. Three of them, if you remember, immediately die. Just 3 of them just get immediately died by Sidious.
His spin move.
Windu wins, that wins the duel, but just to go in there, look, this is the first like Darth Lord they've known about in like hundreds of years. Like, we'll take 4 Jedi. The whole temple is right there. It's not even like they have to go to hyperspace to like get more Jedi. The whole Jedi temple. They could have brought younglings with them to help fight Darth Sidious.
Could have
What
came
a bad
stacked.
idea by Mace Windu to only bring 4 Jedi. Okay, so and this is how we're kind of tying it in. This is our bad takes. So, what bad takes did we have going into Worlds? I think it's kind of more interesting to think like, what were we wrong about? What did we get wrong? And so I'll start out. I got plenty wrong, but I think my main thing is if you go back and look at our commander rankings that Garrett and I did, I put Dooku in the D tier, and I said Dooku sucks. And Damon got 9th with him. And I think he got 10th the year before. So Damon is clearly showing that there's something to Dooku. I don't see it. But I was wrong. So I was clearly wrong about that. One of the second highest CIS commander was Dooku. So were you guys wrong about anything? Garrett's
Well,
like,
I'll go.
anything.
Listen, I genuinely thought Luminara would do better because she is a direct, like, middle finger to Sloan. And she just didn't pan out. Not a lot of people brought Luminara. I thought it'd be a good idea because, I mean, statistically, you have like, it's like a 1 in 5 chance of running into a Sloan player like at this tournament, right? So, and plus she's good in general, but clearly I'm wrong. Like, I unironically thought she would do well. So what do I know? That's my hot take. Luminara, I guess not.
So for me, it's a little bit more general. I was expecting there to be more Gar fleets in day 2 and day 3. And there really wasn't. And I think part of that is just because we got so used to seeing Anakin as a commander be in a lot of things. So the entire like first half of our OP season for this year wound up being Anakin and Anakin and Anakin,
Yeah.
lots of Gar fleets. And it almost felt like the CIS fleets were non-existent for a while. And what I find fascinating about that is that we had a Grievous fleet of all things do remarkably well, and a Dooku fleet where people are like, yeah, nah, you need Martuk and you need Kraken. Those are your 2 guys to use if you're going to do CIS. And instead we have Dooku and Trench and Grievous. And on the Gar side, like we got Bale. We were expecting Bale, but I was thinking we would see more with Tarkin and Spats and more with, like you, Garrett, Luminara. And, I was personally hoping for Yularen that maybe we'd find some interesting builds. And like I said, we did.
We did. And he got 37. So
I was hoping kind of secretly to see that fleet do well, just because, I mean, Yularen, a neat build for Peltas. But I think one of the things that we're seeing here is twofold. We have a lot of comfort because they've been out longer with Imperial and Rebel fleets. And you've got some good contenders in CIS and GAR, but the variety isn't quite there. So most of their tricks. So someone's either going to come up with a really unique way of flying one of them, or it's going to be a lesser used commander that they find here's the trick to it. Or we're going to effectively, we need like another, whether it's a rapid reinforcements or a Clone Wars wave. And, in the interview that I did with Will Schick, he said that he knows. He and Atomic Mass Games know that there's a couple things missing from Clone Wars. So I'm kind of hopeful here that maybe we'll see something in the GAR and CIS space that's going to help with some fleet variety, and that can spice up those two factions a little bit, and I think that would bring them more into the competitive fold, because we did not see as much as I was hoping to see. By the same token, we also saw a lot more variety in our fleet archetypes just across the 114 players plus the 40 players, some odd players from LCQ, that I didn't feel like we were calling the same game every round.
Yeah. I also want to say Anarchy gets brought up a lot, but losing Matchstick rogue ability was, I think, almost bigger.
Yeah.
As far as like technical feats go, because he was able to, and I think this is a really big hole that's missing in the Republic. CIS has got the same thing, but I think if we get rogues back into the Republic in a way, it really showed like how incredibly powerful that is. So Matchstick's rogue ability. So I don't know. I'd like to see Rogue back just to do something different with how the Republic fleets are built. Because that meant you could, make your Venator a actual battleship instead of having to only push squadrons. So
Of only two fleets had matchstick.
The new one, yeah.
In the whole tournament. One of them made day two. Thanks to our judges for inputting all that information.
Plo Koon, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Plo. Yep. Yeah, we're not going to talk too much, about the top 8 fleets here. If you want to see us talk about the top 8 fleets, like I said, they were all on video.
Extensively.
We talked 2.5 hours on each fleet. So we got each top 8 fleet on video at least once. I was very excited to get. So we had a really good coverage of the top 8. So please take a look at those videos if you really want to kind of see our breakdown of those fleets.
That was kind of cool that we did on day 3 actually get 6 of those fleets on video. We did not repeat a fleet on day 3. That was neat. I liked that. And yeah, again, like you said, having the other 2 fleets from day 2, I think, just was really neat, just to be able to, like you said, get that vision for all 8 fleets. So, yeah, please go back, check those out. I mean, and I want to, again, special thank you to both Ryan and Garrett here, and John and Adrian for all the great expertise they brought to the streaming, and hopefully you guys enjoyed, listening to us for 37 hours or however, basically a week's worth of work squashed into 4 days. I know I had a lot of fun. I think my biggest highlight was, I believe it was day 1, round 1, where we had the father-son battle.
Oh yeah, just the Pryors, Andrew and Justin Pryor.
That was a lot of fun. It's a Star Wars story, right? Father versus son.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I know I enjoyed kind of mixing things up in terms of from a streaming aspect, being able to work Garrett with you, with Adrian, with John, with Ryan. I think Ryan, you and I got in 1 or 2 games.
Yep.
And I know that you guys got in 1 game on day 2 as well, where you called most of one of those games. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got to call the last game of day 2
to James and Chris.
Right.
Fritz,
that was
which
really
was
cool.
That was a wild game, yeah.
Right, because James was the world champion, right? Defending, trying to get into the last day. And Chris was 1-2 on the day so far. Chris won that game, wound up getting second in the whole thing. So very, very fun game to call.
Final thoughts. Armada's still fun. Still good. Again, I always want to say this. If you live somewhere and you don't have anybody to play with Armada with, post a message on like one of the Discords, comment on this channel, and we'll like find a way to link you with somebody. Because there's somebody somewhere, and there's so many different little communities. You might have to drive some, all right. Some people just drive normally like an hour to some places. So it just depends where you're at. So yeah. I just want to make sure, never let that be an excuse not to play, because there's probably somebody out there in the same place you are trying to play too.
Yeah, I guess my thought is kind of echoes Garrett, to the people who are in this game or invested in this game. I kind of say this once a year, just try to grow it, just keep trying to grow the game any way you can. I think this world showed us what a fantastic freaking game we got here, and if everyone could just bring one new person in, right? Or one, I think the store championships are a huge part of growing the game this year. We're highly successful for everybody. So just, and it may not even be like bringing a new person into the game, just like answer a question about the game. If you see something on Reddit or a Facebook post about the game, hey, anyone heard about this? Just talk to somebody about it. I think even doing that is just if we all just kind of grow the game and do our best to do that bit by bit, I think it helps.
Yeah. Again, biggest worlds ever. Like people had to come here to do it. And so if people are that invested, come all around the world, come play this game. Like it's a good game. So it's not really going anywhere. And there's so much content and different things to do. So, and I know if people are like, oh, we've been on this stuff, I'm like, I know you haven't played every fleet with every commander and every ship. It's like, I know. Okay. There's very few people out there who've played just hundreds upon hundreds of these games. So there's a lot of content yet to do.
I have personally flown at least once every single commander.
Well,
And
listen, that's on video, Ken, right? You are the exception to the rule. Okay?
But what I was going to say is each commander, it's like, okay, I know what I'm good at, what I'm not. But what's neat about that is if you do get an opportunity to do that, I strongly recommend you do, you can start figuring out when you're playing against someone else, here's that commander's trick. And then as you start adding in new ships, you can kind of start saying, this is how this interaction is going to work with this commander in this grouping. And that becomes another tool in your arsenal when you're playing Armada. And there are so many different combinations. Some of them are completely wild and crazy, but they may work and do remarkably well. So, definitely try things out. As Ryan and Garrett have already said, and I agree with this, check out your local gaming stores. Someone is playing Armada or someone wants to play Armada. And that's probably the thing that I've heard the most. And all it really takes is you, one other buddy at a local store, and people are going to stop by and say, what's that? Or I have this game. I didn't know people were playing it. That's happened a couple times. I know locally our group has grown by about 5 to 10 new people in the last since Worlds.
Yeah, I'm jealous of your guys' group. You got like
Well,
hundreds of people. Get out of here.
And we're hovering right around 100. If Adrian was here, he would tell you exactly how many people are on our Discord now. But yeah, we've got a big and growing group. And it's all 100% because of Adrian. He's the rock star of the group and keeps things running. But there's something to be said about working with your local store and just getting people to come play the game. Like Ryan said, you get one person in, that's all you need. And then you keep going and you can have so much fun with this game. There's so much to explore in it. And what the heck, give a shot, go to a tournament. Because that's where you meet more people and you'll find out that there's a person 3 streets over you never knew that plays Armada. And and hell, me and Adrian is a prime example. He lives about 10 minutes away from me. I did not know that, and I didn't meet Adrian until I drove an hour or so away to be able to play Armada. Even me and John, where we do when we first met, it was because I was streaming at a local store with Armada, and he lived 5 minutes away. Could walk to the game store kind of a thing. So I'm not suggesting go out, start a YouTube channel to find people play Armada. But if you go to a local store, it's amazing what you can do in terms of growing the community. And this is a great
back in 2018, I went to a little store championship in Lexington, and there was a guy who showed up to that he was just like, this looks like a cool game. I'll bring a fleet. And he later turned out to be Garrett. And it was
a 3-man store championship. You, me, and Andy.
Championship, yeah. And and now he's got his little he's got his empire. And so you never know who you're gonna bring into a game, and who would have thought? So
yeah, but again, ask on Reddit. Go to the Ion Radio Discord. Ask there. We'll link you to other Discords. There's too many Discords, by the way. So I want to say that right now. Too many Discords.
We see a lot of like questions like, "Hey, I don't have anyone to play in my area."
Yeah, just reach out. Well, I try and like answer if someone contacts me, I try and do it. So like, I don't know, find a way to ask. We'll find them. But I got nothing else, guys. I'm still optimistic about Armada, so that's
I would be remiss if I didn't give one shout out to my wife, and I guess probably all of our wives too, for letting us do this and letting us travel and play this game. So thank you guys.
Definitely huge shout out to my wife. We have a relatively new dog that the cone is now off.
Was it coneless? It's
She's
free,
coneless.
free to run. It's good.
She's free to run around. And there's just a lot of medications that dog needed in her eyes. But so big shout out to my wife because she had to put up with that puppy for 5-6 days.
Yeah.
Because we had to get there a day early to set up. So please send people to the streams and have them watch, and maybe that'll generate some more interest for you also. So have them playing in the background at your local game store. That could be fun. But
he's just trying to get the view counts up. Right?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'm doing. So,
Well, all right, guys. I guess that's it.
Yeah, I think we'll call it here. So once again, thank you so much, Ryan. Where can they find the Command Stack podcast?
Any audio provider, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, and then it's also posted on Ion Radio's YouTube.
That's right. So check it all out, pass it along to your friends, and until next time, I'm Ken.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
And you've been watching or listening to Command Stack.